Well, as Modi government completes 1 year in office, rural India is in a tough spot. Government's fight against inflation has hurt rural wages, and unseasonal rains and a threat of a subpar monsoon have dented rural demand. So has the government done enough to boost consumption? To discuss that and much more, we've got Vivek Gambhir, Managing Director of GCPL, who's joining us right here on the show. Mr. Gambhir, thank you so much for taking the time out today. Let's start off by getting your thoughts as far as the first year of the Modi government is concerned, and some of the hits and misses here for your sector.
Yeah, I think overall the government has done reasonably well in the first year. Macroeconomically, the country is in a strong position. India today is the fastest growing major economy in the world today. Inflation is down, economy is improving, and the fiscal and current account deficits have shrunk. Certainly on the ground, the recovery is underway. Recovery has been slower than expected. I think consumer demand is still sluggish. But overall, I think the government has done well in its first year.
Exactly what you just said, Vivek. On one hand, while the government's been very lucky with regards to the cool off on inflation and the fact that we've also seen crude trading at those multi-year lows. On the other hand, pickup in demand has been incredibly sluggish. What, in your opinion, needs to happen in order for that to change? Are you watching out for further moves from the RBI? Are you looking at further spending from the government? What do you feel needs to be seen to have that impact on ground?
I think clearly reducing interest rates would be an important step. See, there are three basic things which would drive demand. One is consumer sentiment and confidence. Second is increase in income. And then the third is increase in productive jobs. Sentiment and confidence levels are already quite high. Now what the government needs to do is to really kickstart the investment cycle, focus a lot more on rural, particularly in terms of productive job creation in rural, and really add more teeth to the Make for India and the Make in India campaign so that we can actually start seeing more jobs being created on the ground. And a critical step, I think, in terms of driving GDP growth, again, would be to ensure that the GST is implemented by April 1st of next year.
How critical, is GST? Because, that really has been the big one, Vivek, that everyone's been talking about, that everyone's been focusing on. You had high expectations, in regard to the way the previous session would have played out in regard to GST itself. Just to give us a sense as far as how critical, and for your sector as well, how important GST is.
I think GST would probably be the biggest game changer as far as economic growth is concerned over the medium term.
Okay.
Our estimates suggest that passing of the GST over time could lead to about 200 basis points increase in GDP growth. So along with obviously broadening the tax base, making the tax system more efficient, improving compliance, it will also enable a lot of us to drive efficiencies in logistics and supply chain. That will reduce prices for consumers and really spur economic growth.
Vivek, I just want to take that a little further, because the GST in its current form we're looking at actually a pretty high rate coming in. Do you see that perhaps actually causing any other problems going ahead, or unanticipated problems, if we do see it implemented in its current form? Or do you feel that just in fact getting the ball rolling and actually implementing that unified tax regime will be a big booster going forward?
I think it's key to at least get something passed and implemented. It may not be perfect in the first go around. We can certainly start refining it as time goes, but certainly some action is better than no action at all. Across the world, in most countries where GSTs have been implemented, the typical rates have been between 6 to 16%. So I think if we can come up with a revenue neutral rate, perhaps in the high teens, that would be ideal.
All right, fair enough, Vivek. We leave it there. Thanks so much for joining in today with your thoughts and perspective as far as what we've seen in the last 1 year from the Modi government, and also what the road ahead looks like, especially when we talk about your sector there. All right, so that's the management of GCPL out there, just decoding the trends as far as the last 1 year is concerned and how they're looking at some of the things going forward from here on. We'll take a quick break right now, but coming up next, we get you the markets verdict with Sridhar Sivaraman, founder of Siva Capital Advisors. He'll be joining in just a couple of minutes, and we'll also decode government's mega infra push and how is it fared. Vivek Chatterjee of Feedback Ventures will also be joining in. Stay tuned, that's coming up after the short break.